Hi, everybody. My name's Michael Saunders. I'm a program manager on the Office platform team. Thanks for coming to the Tech Talk. First, I just wanted to get a feel for the audience here. First, can you guys show me, just quick show of hands, how many of you guys know what a web add-in is? Show me with your hands. OK, all right, pretty good coverage. For those of you who don't know, just my 10-second overview of that. Basically, it's a new add-in platform that we have. And the great thing about web add-ins is you can write them with web technologies, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that kind of stuff, your own server. And they run not just on your Windows desktop, but across platforms, right? They run on Windows, on Mac, on your iPad device, and even in the browser. Last question for you guys. How many of you have actually built an Office add-in yourself? Show of hands. OK, all right, about what I expected, and that is perfect for this presentation. For those of you who did not raise your hands, who have not built a web add-in, I'm going to show you a demo of ScriptLab. This is a Microsoft Garage project, and it will help you learn how to use the Office JavaScript API. It's really easy to get started. For those of you who did raise your hand, if you have built an Office add-in before, that's also great. ScriptLab will be a fantastic tool for you to prototype, try out your ideas, experiment with the new APIs using ScriptLab. So I'm going to go ahead with the demo now. That's going to be the rest of the presentation, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end. I'm going to open up Excel here. You can actually follow along with me if you want, if you've got your PC going. If not, you can try it yourself at home. One of the fantastic things about ScriptLab is how easy it is to get started. You don't need any environment set up. You don't need to install anything besides Office, which you should already have, and ScriptLab, which you can get for free from the Office store. It takes like 20 seconds to do it. In fact, I'm going to go do the install right now so you guys can all see how that works. So inside Excel, of course, it doesn't just work in Excel. I'm going to show you Word as well today, and you can run this thing in PowerPoint and even Project. And like I said, it'll be across Windows device and your Mac, and even in the browser. So we're going to go to the Store tab, the Store button here on Insert. This is where you can get add-ins from the store, and just search for ScriptLab. And there's our results. ScriptLab, I click Add. Totally free, like I said. And then when that's added, that will create a ScriptLab tab for you up at the top. So now I've opened the ScriptLab tab. You can see we have a few buttons that are available to you. The most important ones are the two on the left, the Code button and then the Run button. And there's a bunch of other functionality. I'll tell you what that is. But for now, let's click Code and see where we are. So that opened a task pane. Task panes are one of the main shapes that you can create with Office add-ins, by the way. There's a bunch of samples that appear on the screen. I'm just going to choose the basic API call sample to get us started here. And let me expand the screen so we can see a little better what's showing up there. So first thing you'll notice, this is showing JavaScript code. If you look a little more carefully, you'll notice some things maybe you're not familiar with in JavaScript. I've got async and await statements here. I have some arrow notation for functions. These are some more advanced JavaScript features in the ES6 and ES7 specs. And what I'm actually showing you here is TypeScript. So this is a language that compiles to JavaScript and provides some extra syntactical sugar and type checking, other great things. I just want to make it clear, if you have no idea what TypeScript is, or if you just want to use plain vanilla JavaScript, this will work totally well for you. In fact, we have samples that are just plain JavaScript. And everything I'm going to show you, you can do just with regular vanilla JavaScript if you want to. TypeScript is only extra bonus. So I'm going to switch back to the TypeScript sample, and we'll keep going from that. Let's take a look at what this code is actually doing. So first step here, we're going to get the range that's selected. That's going to be what the user has actually selected, context.workbook.getSelectedRange. And then I'm going to format those cells with the color yellow. Finally, we'll load the address of the cells so that later on, we can write that address to the console. OK? So let me run this code, see if that actually works. I'll go to the Run button up here on the ribbon, and we're going to click Run. that opens another tab. And so here you kind of have a side-by-side experience where you've got Excel on the left-hand side, you've got the coding pane in the middle, and the run pane on the right. By the way, these are movable panes, of course. You don't need to just have these all in the configuration I do. But it's created this run pane, and now when I select some cells and I click Run Code, there we go. Ran the JavaScript. You've got the cells highlighted yellow, and as we expected, here it's got the name of the range address, sheet 1, B2 to D6. So that's your first example of Scriptlab actually running code, and you could have done this without my whole spiel in the middle in 30 seconds to a minute, probably. Let's change the code. Instead of yellow, I'll choose another color, maybe pound 00FF CC, one of the beautiful colors. I'll refresh here. We'll select another range. So you can see it automatically detected that I need to refresh in the run pane, and then I click Run, and there's the new color. So I think it's probably time for me to show you something a little more interesting than just highlighting cells with colors. The API that we have for Office is extremely capable, and I want to give you a quick review of, or quick overview of some cool things that I could do to edit this snippet. First thing, maybe instead of getting the selected range, we're going to specify a particular range of cells in Excel. It's always good to work with some sample data. Why don't I give ABC123 in the cells here. Always nice for sample data. That's a little small. Let me just zoom in a bit. Perfect. Now you can see that better. And so, okay, let's not do workbook.getSelectedRange. Let's specify a particular range. Workbook dot worksheets. This gives me the collection of sheets that are in the workbook. Right now, there's just one sheet. Dot get active worksheet. So this is going to return the current one. And then what I want to do is get the range. And you'll notice as I'm typing here, I get the benefit of IntelliSense while I'm going. This is one of the great things you get with TypeScript, one of the fantastic features of Scriptlab. You could, on one hand, go with your normal development environment and have the documentation open, figure out what APIs you need to write, or you don't need to look at any documentation at all, necessarily. Just launch Scriptlab, take a look at some samples, and guess what some of the methods that are available are, what some of the objects that are available are, and IntelliSense will tell you. We're actually using here Monaco Editor, which is the same editing technology that's used in Visual Studio Code today. So you get all this nice, not just IntelliSense, but syntax highlighting and other great features. So what did I say I wanted here? Get range. And so there's a function method right here to get the range. Tells me what I need to do. Just enter a range, and it'll take a string here. I can put, let's do just part of that sample data that I selected, C12 through, let's do D13. So 4 of those cells. No, not D3, D13. Shout out if I make a coding mistake here and don't notice it. Okay, so I've selected that should get these 4 cells for the range variable that I have here, and then maybe instead of loading the address, let's actually get the values from that range. So totally easy to do. Here we're going to load the values instead of loading the address, and when we write to the console, of course, we want to write the values. So the values in the range. So I make this string correct. Were that. And one more step, we can actually write out or write back to the workbook and put in some new values in that range. So for that, we're going to say range.values, and we're going to set some values on that range. So here I need a 2D array because it's a range object, has 2 dimensions, and I'll put whatever values I want in the new range. Maybe these are... Hopefully I get all my array syntax right. These are new values. Okay. It's telling me I did something wrong here. Oh, of course. I need to set range.values to this new 2D array that I have. Okay, now I think that is all correct. Let's refresh the run pane and moment of truth here. Run the code. Okay, there we go. So first thing it did, wrote out in the console like we expected the new values, A, B, 1, 2, which were the 2 in the selected range that we had, and then it overwrote the existing values with the new 2D array that I had. So that's just, again, a small example, some of the functionality that you can have. Of course, you can add any of the other wonderful APIs that we've been adding. You can use a bunch of logic, any logic you want in the script. You could have loops going. There's tons of different possibilities for what you can write with ScriptLab. In fact, you can even include external libraries. Here, I clicked on the Libraries tab at the top of ScriptLab here, and you could do things like include NPM packages if you want. There's just tons of possibilities. To show you one possible space of things that you can change, this template tab gives you access to the HTML for the run page here. So right now you see it's configured to just show a run button and run the function in JavaScript. Pretty simple. But say you wanted to do something like, instead of hard coding that color into the script that I have, I want to put a little user control so that they can enter the color that they want. No problem. So let's put an input control into HTML here. Input. Give that some identifier. OK, good. And then moving back to the script tab, we need to actually take the value of that input instead of the hard-coded color right here that we have. This is we can use some jQuery for this, if I remember my selector notation, something like that. And then we want to get the value object. Oh, not val, the val object. Perfect. Is this right? Yes, val. And OK, so that, now that I've changed that, should do everything I wanted. If we refresh now, OK, there's my input control. And I can choose some other color, maybe one of my favorites, pound decaf 0 here. And let's see what color that is. All right, perfect. So there's the HTML configuration. One of the things I always like to show in here, it's nice to have some more dynamic-looking web content. So we're going to add in something that looks nice. Oops. Let me paste this in. OK, maybe I'm not going to be able to paste that in right now. We'll try reloading this thing. And copy this. Paste it in. All right, no paste right now. We're a Microsoft Garage project, so if you notice any bugs, by the way, you can file them on GitHub. I'll show you that at the end. But this is just one of the platforms where ScriptLab can run. So in a minute, I'm going to show you the import feature and bring this same set of code to the web. But before I do that, just wanted to give you a taste some of the other fantastic samples that exist. So here, just scrolling through, you can see not only can you do just the basic API calls that I've shown you before, but all kinds of samples relating to working with ranges, dealing with the worksheet, inserting, editing tables, working with named items. You can even insert and configure charts, all in ScriptLab. In fact, maybe I'll show you another demo of one of the great samples we have inside Word. Here, when we launch ScriptLab, there's a fantastic little sample that puts in some text and then kind of loops through the text. So this one is the range manipulation sample. And here, when I run this one, it is going to first create a paragraph and then highlight one word at a time, going through a loop on a little delay. So you can do all kinds of crazy stuff if you want. Let me show you the exporting features and then the sharing features of ScriptLab here. Back in Excel, let's say I have that snippet that I really liked, and I want to either save it for myself on another machine for later or share it with someone else, maybe use it to answer a Stack Overflow question. Then I can go to the menu at the top here and share it as a public gist. So this uses GitHub to enable sharing. I'm going to sign into my GitHub account. And all right. And this is always use two-factor auth, folks. This is going to give me the auth code on the device. And there's my code. All right, so now I am signed into GitHub with ScriptLab, and it just gave me the URL of the gist that I created. So I can copy this, gist URL here, and then, in fact, one other thing you could do, view it directly on GitHub. This is now a URL publicly available. You can share with whoever you want. You can also share to a private GitHub to a private gist that isn't searchable. And let's say now I'm on another machine, or I'm another person, you can imagine. I'm going to go in Excel Online here and go to the ScriptLab tab there. We're going to click Code. And then in the ScriptLab tab that appears, I'm going to import that sample. So one of the options is the import window. And here I can paste in the gist URL. And then when I click import, that brings in the same code that I had before. I can now run this snippet. And it should produce the same result that I had before, as we expected. So there's the color that I entered, and there's the code running on a different platform. You can do the same thing on iPad. You can send it to someone else, do the same thing. So that's my quick overview of ScriptLab. You can get this thing, as I said, for free from the Office store. I encourage you to visit our GitHub page. The URL's up there, aka.ms/scriptlab. Like I said, get this thing for free. Try it out. You can even contribute samples. You can even contribute code to the ScriptLab tool itself and help us out. We love if you log bugs, tell us about what you're doing with ScriptLab, and enjoy experimenting with the tool. So thank you very much. Oh, so I have a couple minutes if you guys want to ask any questions. If you don't want public questions, then you can also come talk to me afterwards. I'll be at the side. Yes? Question was, can it use jQuery too, or just plain JavaScript? And the answer is absolutely. You can use jQuery. In fact, jQuery is already included in the libraries list. So, and you may have noticed in the demo that I showed you before, actually this color.val, this is actually using jQuery there. And you can see in the libraries tab, we included jQuery 3.1.1 as one of the defaults. But say you wanted some other library to use that's also on NPM, no problem. You can just enter that in, and it's immediately available really easily. Thanks for the question. Yeah?
How do you package this to give it to customers?
OK, fantastic question. How do you package ScriptLab? Once this is a nice learning tool, right? You can enter a bunch of APIs. You can see how it works. Don't even need to necessarily look at the docs. But once you're at a stage where you want to package this for a customer, how do you go from there? One option is you can use our traditional packaging methods, or we just recently added a feature where we can export for publishing. Okay, and what that's going to do is create a download of a zip file. The zip file includes all the critical elements of the package that you need in order to actually deploy this add-in for use by customers. So I can save that and show you what's in there. Basically, it's pretty simple. It's got the manifest file, and it's got the JavaScript, CSS, all in separate files. And all you need to do is deploy that to Azure. There's a really easy README in the zip file that explains you just need to replace one URL a couple times in the manifest document with whatever location you uploaded it to, whether Azure, AWS, or whatever your host is. And then you submit the manifest to the Office store, or you test it on your devices, of course, first. So it is pretty easy to migrate from this to a full-blown add-in and ship that to your customers. Thanks for the question. Yes, last question. How do you buy this add-in? Oh, how do you bind it to a button? Great question. So we have a feature called commands. You can look up add-in commands on the Office Store documentation. The commands enable you to configure the UI that appears on the ribbon, that is up here, with whatever buttons you want. You can create a new tab or you can use an existing tab. You can create a set of buttons. You can also even configure right-click contextual menus, and it's all done statically through the manifest.xml file. And if you want to search for more information about how to do that, it's called add-in commands. You can check out the documentation. I'll answer your question after I'm out of time. Thank you very much, everybody, and please try Script Lab.